Hello there. I watched a Blu-ray version of the Wicker Man, the Edward Woodward 1973 with Christopher Lee and Britt Ekland and Engrid Pitt and so forth. It was always a film that flicked a switch with me, and I thought it was a really strange, sinister, occult film. One might call it a horror. It's often referred to as a horror, but really there is only one thing that makes it a horror, and that is the horrendous ending that really just totally left me gobsmacked. I bought it again because I wanted to watch it again. I've watched it several times. The first time I ever watched it was when it came on television. I think it was about 1977. It was on a midweek night as a late night film. And I always remember the man saying, for the first night on British television or something like that. And this film started with this plane flying over the Highlands, a boat plane that lands in the sea and so forth. And it's majestically flying over the Highlands. And there was this sort of lady doing a sort of a bit of a fanfare type song, and then it blends into this man singing this Scottish folk song, corn rigs and barley rigs and corn rigs are bonny, and it had this really beautiful serene feel to it. And it obviously lands in this harbour, and out come these islanders, and they look like rather nice jolly people, but they're very private. They have a Isle Lord who's Christopher Lee, who, you know, you can only go into their island if you've got written permission from his lordship. But Sergeant Howie, who Edward Woodward plays, says, you know, I'm a policeman and this is a police matter, and I don't need Lord Summerisle's sort of, you know, agreement to land on this thing. And that's basically how the story. Sorry, that's a tractor going by. That's basically how the story goes, you know. And he's been sent an anonymous letter for this 12-year-old girl on the island that's gone missing. And it's an island that doesn't have any crime, doesn't even have a police force on there. Police only come from the mainland under exceptional circumstances. And obviously, a 12-year-old girl missing is an exceptional circumstance. And these very, how can I say it? These islanders are not look like nice people, you know. They're sort of, you know, they, all right, you're a policeman, come on the island, and he shows them the photo of the missing girl, and they're all saying, no, she's not from this island, and on it goes. And as he, you know, as he starts his investigations on the island, you suddenly begin to realise that these happy, shiny people on the island, they're not quite what you would expect. There's something a little bit weird and sinister about them, and it becomes really apparent when he goes to the local pub, the Green Man, to book up a room for the night and a bite of supper. And all the people in the pub, they've got a few folky sort of fiddles and things. They start singing a little shanty, a little folk shanty about what a trollop, what a trollop and loose woman the landlord's daughter is. And there's the landlord and his daughter all sort of clapping along with this little harmonising song that's really sort of a bit naughty and a bit over the top. And this policeman's sort of like, what's going on here? And then he goes out for a walk, and there's all this lurid thing going on in the graveyards. You know, ladies on their husbands, sort of doing their marital thing out in the open, and he's sort of like, this is not right. And the things just seem to get worse and worse. He sees Lord Summerisle from his bedroom window as he's about to go to bed of a night, and there's all this singing coming up, folk singing coming up from the pub below, and he sends this young boy up to the landlord's daughter, and he can't believe what's going on. And as he starts to investigate things on this island, everything comes, you're getting more and more shocked. And these fun-loving islanders, you're thinking maybe they're a little, you know, it's too much. They're too far gone, and the Christianity has gone from the island, and they're all sort of, I don't know whether the word is druid-like, folklore type people that are worshipping round the maypole, and that leads to other over suggestive things that are being taught in the school. And this police sergeant, he's very puritanical. He's a Christian religious man, and he just cannot believe what he's coming up against. And every time you go on this journey with the policeman, and you see all sorts of things that are just making you shocked, and he's sort of replying to all this shock with his own Christian morality. He really is a puritanical Christian. You might think him a bit of a stick in the mud at first because he's so stalwart. But then as it goes along, the islanders that you like, that are happy people, you start to thinking, this lot are too weird. And this policeman, who you think is a bit of a stick in the mud, a bit too puritanical, why don't you lighten up a bit at first? But as it's going along, you're thinking, whoa, I think he's got a point, and this lot are not the full shilling. And you're completely captured and intrigued by what's going on, because he keeps discovering one little bit after another little bit. He finds out that this little 12-year-old girl does come from the island, and the more as he's sort of, the more that he finds out, the more intriguing the plot gets, and you just want to know what's going on next. And he finally, he gets to the crux of the matter. But when he gets to the crux of the matter, it's rather exciting, it's rather upbeat, and you really sort of, yeah, go on, get this thing done, do what's necessary. And then you've got this sudden, because I know that most of you have probably watched it and you know what the twist is, but just for those that don't know, have never seen it and don't know, I dare not spoil it, but it is just this twist, this revelation that is so horrible, so horrific, that it just left me gobsmacked. And when it all ended, at first, I mean, the first time I watched it, at first I thought, oh no, that can't be the end. And it just left gobsmacked, absolutely horrified and gobsmacked. And it took me a couple of days for the dust to settle when I had to think more about this film. I thought, that was a really good film. That was a splendid occult, sinister thriller that became a stroke horror because of the horrific revelation at the end. So to me, it was a horror film, but anyone that loves horror might be disappointed in the word of horror being used. But it is a horror. It is an occult stroke thriller stroke horror, if you like, a mystery as well. All of that all bundled in, and it is done so well. And it's just a simplistic little story, and it's done so well. It captivates you. And I just thought that ending was horribly magnificent. It was terrible, but it was great. And it just left you cold. It left cold. And I thought, I'll have to get the this new thing that's been on offer going around as a Blu-ray. So I got it, and it's got three different versions of the film. You've got the theatrical version, which is the first one I ever see. Then you had the director's cut. The director's cut has a little bit of a scene in front of it, and I have to admit, it's on the mainland before he goes. I didn't really like that. I liked it when the plane's taking off, and there's a little bit of him in church with his fiancée before he goes. That's fine. And then we're on that plane for the opening credits, and I thought that was best. It's a sort of 93-minute version, as opposed to the little bit longer than the actual theatrical version that we see. And I sort of like become a big cult fan of this film, because I've watched it so many times. I've had it on video, I've had it on DVD, and they clutter up the places, you gradually get rid of them. And then I downloaded it on Amazon and streamed it, but then I thought I ended up buying the Blu-ray again, because it had all three versions of it, plus it had the features of the people talking. You had Christopher Lee, Edward Woodward, Britt Ekland, even Engrid Pitt. Many of them are no longer with us, but they're all talking about the making of the film, and that in itself was very, very interesting. Britt Ekland said that she couldn't get the Scottish accent right, so she said all the lines in the film, but it was a voiceover with a proper a lady's Scottish accent that made it sound good. And there's a rather erotic part, where she's trying to seduce the policeman in the room next door to come in, on all the folky people in the pub downstairs are playing all this lovely acoustic folky music, and she's singing this beautiful song that's sort of like enticing him to come into her, and he's got to resist it, this policeman, and everything, and because he doesn't want to be swayed from his mission to find this 12-year-old girl. And she's talking all about those things, and it tells you a lot of details about things and that, and what she thought of the film. I get the impression out of all of the actors and actresses there, she was the one who probably didn't like the cold weather very much, because they said although it's beautiful summer and you catch it all in this summery aspect, this island, evidently they made it in the autumn and put fake trees up to make it look sunny, but it looked like a really sunny place, this island off of the west coast of Scotland, and it's this remote island with this remote community. We had Engrid Pitt talking, and she said a few little interesting things, and then Edward Woodward was speaking about it and how he enjoyed making it, but most of all Christopher Lee. He absolutely loved making the film, and I think he spoke of Robin Hardy. Is it Robin Hardy and Anthony Schaefer, who all three of them got together and they collected the copyrights for a novel called Ritual by a man named David Pinner. That the book was written in 1967, and I have since read the book because I wanted to see it. But it's to be fair, it's nothing like the way the film is. It's a completely different concept, also a different ending. And one of those films where you say the film was better than the book that inspired it. There has been a novel of The Wicker Man, but that was by Anthony Schaefer. But I think the novel was written after the film, so they adapted the novel from the film called The Wicker Man. But the original inspiration, from what I could gather, was a book called Ritual by David Pinner. And it's not a bad read. I enjoyed it, but it was nowhere near as good as the actual movie. It's actually set in a small little remote village in Cornwall, where these occult people in this village live, and it's all very different. And the policeman in the book Ritual he's a little bit knowledgeable about occult things and all that, and can see signs of occult, whereas in The Wicker Man, we have this stalwart puritanical policeman, which works really well. But he's also, in his own way, because of his own Puritan Christian beliefs, he's a little bit naive as he's going around trying to solve this. But he sticks to his thing in the film. I'm talking about the film as opposed to the book now. So, having someone who's read the book that's inspired The Wicker Man, I would say give Ritual a read, but it's absolutely not on the same level as the film. It's a completely different concept, but you can see some of the characters in the film where they come from the characters in the book, where they, some of the island, especially Britt Ekland's landlord, Willow McGregor. You can see the character she comes from in the book, and the landlord and the Scottish, I don't know whether it's called a laird or the Isle Lord that Christopher Lee plays, is a sort of an actor, a retired thespian actor in the Cornish Ritual story. So you've got all these various different characters that have been enhanced and put into this Wicker Man story, and it's superior to the book, I have to say. The final sort of imagining of the Wicker Man. But I've always wanted to do a little something about the Wicker Man, because it is I'm one of these people that like certain types of film that have my own little cult library, and the Wicker Man for me I just think it was outstanding. It's completely off the radar type of film, And it was a B movie. It came out as a B movie supporting a main feature. And I don't think it did much when it was released up at the cinema. It was probably when I first saw it, when it came on British television. Lots of people were talking about it at work the next day. And I think it sort of gained in popularity from where it was put out on television. And then with the advent of VHS video and then into DVDs as time progressed, it's suddenly become a much more favoured film, because I think most people that are into the occult movie, or especially people that like certain types of horror, would like The Wicker Man. It's not a slash 'em up and knee-jerk horror where you're seeing all these terrifying things. It's just sinister, and you want to go along with it. You want to get to the end of this story. You want to see what the mystery was all about. So for me, that was, I think it was a simplistic story, and yet somehow it just really flicks a lot of switches with people, and it's done very well. So if you've never watched The Wicker Man, I would say give it a go. Edward Woodward, Christopher Lee, I've forgotten her name now, the Swedish actress anyway. Britt Ekland, that's it, Britt Ekland, and Hammerhouse favourite Engrid Pitt. You know, there's and Sean Connery's ex-wife is in it, Diane Clianto, as the school teacher, and the three women that are sort of like the Oil Lord, Christopher Lee's people. Everyone plays a really good part in it. They had a host of some good actors in that film, and the story as it unfolds is something to behold. It really is a very, very interesting story. So I would say that this particular post is, if you've never seen The Wicker Man, go and see it, or you know, download it and watch it, or give it a go, because I really think you'd enjoy it. It's a smashing story, but it will leave you a bit gobsmacked at first, and you might think, oh, I'm not sure if I like that. You have to wait for the dust to settle a day or two probably, and then you think about it again, think, no, that was all right, that was a good film. Well, that's how it happened with me anyway. So you know, if you want to watch a good film, The Wicker Man, go for it.